The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. Want the real story behind the sound bites and headlines? Let's find the facts. Remember, it's not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. You are not paranoid or confused. You just need to know.
Welcome in, everybody. Let's get a Need to Know up and running on this beginning of a brand new week. I'm Keefer. I'm glad to have everybody on board. Hope you had a fantastic weekend and are getting ready for America's 250th birthday coming up July 4th, just a couple of weeks away. It's going to be a real extravaganza. Our country, 250 years since that fateful day in Philadelphia on July 4th when the Declaration of Independence was officially signed, declaring the United States of America was breaking away from the British Empire. It took a lot of cojones for those guys, to all of them English citizens pretty much, to go to that particular convention and sign that document, because basically they were committing treason to the government they had sworn allegiance to. But it spawned a most unlikely upset. We all follow sports now and marvel when something happens that we don't expect. Well, I don't think there were bookmakers back then, but I don't think the odds on the Americans defeating the most powerful army in the world were very good. Now, one big advantage the Americans had, of course, was home field advantage, which, to make a sports correlation, is always a big deal. The British had to fight that war on American soil, and that turned out to be one of the differences, because knowledge of terrain and different strategic maneuvers based on those facts and that knowledge really helped the Americans prevail at the end of the day. So with all that being said, that's the preface. I've got something on my mind a little bit unusual this week, and I've been thinking about it for a couple weeks. I wanted to share it with you. And it starts off by me talking about something that happened within that 250-year window. Back on October 30th, 1938, a few of you listening were probably already on board as far as citizens of this earth, or I should say habitants or occupants of this earth. A lot of you may have been small children that are a little bit later age. But on October 30th, 1938, Orson Welles, doing a program where basically they played out different scenes of drama or, I don't know, suspense. It was the Ford something theatrical presentation. I forgot what the name of the program was. But on that show on NBC radio, I think, broadcast around the country, Orson Welles did a depiction, a dramatic depiction, reading and acting like it was news reports with other actors to chime in as on-the-scene type reporters. And the program was done in a news presentation style. And when people tuned in, they thought it was really happening. They didn't realize that this was theater/drama. Anyway, Welles recreated the classic science fiction book with acclimating it to modern day terms and certainly places in the country people were familiar with, of the War of the Worlds, which of course was a classic book about the alien invasion of Earth. And in that depiction, Welles described alien landings, actual skirmishes with citizens, the army deployed trying to shoot down crafts. Very dramatic, very updated to modern times for those days in 1938. And basically, it scared the living bejesus out of a great portion of the country, because they were used to hearing news reports, but they had never heard a theatrical drama of narration of something done in a news reporting style. And people thought that the country was really being, and the world for that matter, was really being invaded by hostile aliens. And people literally freaked out. And there was people pouring into the streets in some communities, and panic and just widespread just fear into the public. Wells never had the intention of that, but his taking dramatic license certainly was the cause of it. So let's fast forward from that day, October 30th, 1938, to just a couple of weeks ago in our country, when the White House, following the orders of President Donald Trump, directed the CIA and other organizations within our government to release long suppressed and covered up, even material that had been denied that it existed for many, many years. And the first batch, and it's probably been almost a month ago now, of UFO photos, and they're calling them UAPs now, but dating back all the way to the 1940s, around the time of the Orson Welles broadcast, there have been very clear images taken by airline pilots, by astronauts, by people on the ground, official circles. Of course, we've seen a lot of the made-up photos where people try to stage something that looks like an alien craft. They'll put a saucer in the distance and use Photoshop to try to make it look like it's in the air. We've seen all of those. These are government photos that have been suppressed for many, many years to avoid public panic and reaction. And these photos were released. And the amazing thing, the correlation between that release and 1938, where it was just a narrative of a dramatic situation involving spacecraft and aliens. This is actual photographic evidence held by our highest levels of government for many, many years. And again, these photos range from the 1940s until modern times of all these weird crafts, different shapes and things we can't even explain, in the air, in various places around the country. And there was crickets, very little reaction whatsoever. A few weeks later, even more graphic photos were released and played on news broadcasts and talked about on social media and around the internet. And once again, there doesn't seem to me to be any reaction whatsoever. I mean, it's so incredible to me to think that we are at a point where the suggestion that there are many unexplained phenomenons, and really one of the only plausible explanations, is we have been visited here and are continuing to be visited right up to this minute. There was no panic. There was no real reaction. We're more concerned about the disposition of other aliens, the ones who walked into our country from foreign lands and are scunging off all of our taxpayer money. They just came to get all the free stuff. We are also continuously hearing about all of the Trump delusion syndrome and all of the terrible things that the commie-crats are accusing him of being and doing, and all of the talk about elections and midterms and the wars in Ukraine and Iran. I mean, all of those things dominate the headlines, and absolutely nothing, quiet, butkus, crickets, as I said before, about the introduction of official government photos of what looked to be completely unexplained and perhaps some kind of visitors buzzing around different military establishments and other areas of the country from presumably some other dimension, some other galaxy. I mean, we have had very little speculation, very little conversation. What a difference let's see, 42 or 52, is that right? Let's see, 62 and 26. So about 94 years. What a difference that makes from way back in 1938, where everybody was absolutely panicking at the thought of alien or terrestrial visitors, whether they were here for friendly purposes or hostile or what. If you want to hear my opinion, I've always believed that there's too much unexplained phenomenon. And sure, it's very plausible that we're not alone in this universe, and we're not alone in the realm of space that we can't even see or imagine. It's certainly a logical explanation that maybe even the form we take today could have been spawned by some ancient visitors. There's certainly a lot of evidence in primitive societies to that extent, of drawings and different strange things on the sides of caves and that have been found in the earliest ability to actually, I'm not even expert on how these are done, but really old drawings and different things from back in ancient history, where people depicted these strange beings with skinny bodies and big heads. And also, of course, this is mythology, but there was a lot of speculation, of course, looking back to ancient Greek and Roman time, especially the ancient Greeks and Egyptians, of so much of the just inexplicable building that was done. How could that be possible? If you look at these structures and how perfectly and geometrically they're constructed in a time where those concepts had really not even been devised yet, how can it be explained? The mythology says there were a race of giants on the planet. And, I accept that explanation that some super beings had to have had some input on the construction of all of these kind of amazing structures, because there's really no plausible explanation. Some of these blocks of stone and granite and other things, like the construction of Stonehenge, those materials came from hundreds and in some cases thousands of miles away from the site where they were erected into the ground. How was that possible? You didn't have conveyance vehicles capable of hauling multi-thousand pounds of giant rock and pillars. I mean, there has to be some other explanation that maybe beings that were far superior and far more advanced physically and technically had something to do with all of these ancient structures. The pyramids in Egypt, how was that possible? People say, well, maybe with 40,000 men they would have been able to do that. But how is that even possible? How do you haul a giant piece of stone that weighs 8, 9, 10,000 pounds to heights that are at the very top of these structures? I'm sorry, I don't care how many men you have. There's only so many guys that can put their shoulders and physical abilities into dragging a piece of stone around, let alone get it to the top of a giant superstructure. I think that's as unlikely as the suggestion that they had some kind of really high-tech or superhuman help. I really can't think of a more logical explanation. There's a program right now on the History Channel called The Secrets of Skywalker Ranch. It's been on for 9 or 10 years. It comes on every season. Every year they start off, we're going to find out what the weird things that are happening around here are attributed to. They're always trying all these scientific experiments with all this sophisticated equipment. They've got some of the foremost experts in the world, and they can't figure out what's going on this piece of property out in the middle of nowhere in Utah. They know that for sure there's some kind of weird superstructure buried underground. Their radar shows it, and it is some kind of metal, not anything they've ever dealt with or experienced. They've tried to drill into it, and some of the most high-tech, most precision drills, strongest materials in the world today that we know cannot penetrate this thing. They have not been able to figure out exactly what it is, but it could be some kind of control center that's underground, because every time they try and explain all these weird phenomena of things that happen there, their equipment gets jammed. Their exploratory rockets and different things to create light at night to maybe reveal the presence of flying vehicles get jammed or disabled. Every time they try to monitor frequencies, the equipment malfunctions. The main guy on there, and I don't know his last name, I apologize, Travis, you hear his voice all the time. He's a scientist that's into all that kind of stuff and knows a lot about everything. Travis has been the de facto star of the show since the beginning. Some rich guy in California, he bought the property and has financed that whole thing. But if Travis was getting paid by the phrase that he utters about 50 times a show of "what the hell was that?" He says that over and over and over, right when they think they've got a brilliant idea to figure out one of these great mysteries or anomalies on this ranch. Something goes wrong, and Travis declares, "What the hell was that? What's going on here?" If he got paid by the phrase, let's say $100,000 a show, he would have already banked about $25 million in the 10-year run of this show, because I just watched a kickoff episode for this coming season last night. You can tell I have a real exciting life, if that's what I'm doing on a Saturday night, but I digress. This is the year they're going to get to the bottom of all the mysteries on this ranch. I know it's a combination of trying to create more drama and trying to entice fools like me to watch the show for another season, but it's year after year after year, and there is all kinds of weird stuff going on out there, but they never explain, they never have a conclusion. It's always left for the cliffhanger to the next year. Something goes wrong, somebody's really in trouble, somebody piloting a helicopter, it's going down as the season ended. You got to hang on all summer to find out what's going on for the next year. Anyway, there are some really, really, really weird things in this country, this world, that are unexplained, and it is a constant thing to pay attention to, because it's amazing to me that we live in a time now with so much information, so many sources out there. We're not relying on just radio and television. We've got, of course, all kinds of internet outlets, news outlets, social media, all these different functions of broadcasting and programming, and reels and all these quick hitters on TikToks and things of that nature. Are we so jaded now that we just shrug and say, "Oh, we might have aliens amongst us. We might be surrounded by them," but we're not afraid? Obviously, there's been no panic. There's been no one saying the end is near, because as of this point, and I was going to get back to my philosophy, so far, it doesn't appear, while there are things that are completely unexplained, it doesn't seem that if these visitors are here and monitoring us, so far there's been no indication whatsoever they have any hostile intentions. Are we just a fascination to them? Are they responsible in some ways for us being here to start with? Were we basically crafted to inhabit this planet. They seem to be particularly concerned as far as activity of strange craft and unexplained phenomenon of nuclear facility sites. There's been tons of different vehicles and unexplained things photographed in those areas. So maybe they are watching out for the world. Maybe they are going to intercede, just like they do at Skywalker Ranch, if somebody ever did try to launch some kind of ballistic missile with a nuclear warhead. Maybe our guardians would disable that. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. And if they tell you they do, even at the highest levels of government, I think it's just ridiculous. Now, here's the other theory that I really think is plausible, and that is the technologies that the government has been studying for many, many years, and they may be in possession of some of these crafts or some of the remains of some kind of alien beings that lost their lives. Whatever the situation might be, there's always been rumors about top secret areas that have already uncovered this technology. And if that's the case, is the government trying to figure out what these advanced societies and individuals, aliens, whatever you want to call them, spacemen, little green men, they've been called just about everything, but do they have technology that we're trying to understand and develop it? There's a lot of speculation behind the scenes that anti-gravity is a big situation that would explain a lot of the phenomenons and flight patterns of some of these vehicles. And with that technology, you could advance your defense and military capability, and who knows what other practical uses. Is that all under the microscope being studied right now and being kept from us? We really don't know. But there's got to be some plausible explanations, and I hope I live long enough as I get into the late third and early fourth quarter of my existence here. I am very hopeful that we will learn some things in these next coming years of what exactly a lot of this entails. The fact that the president went ahead and did what no president has done all the way back to the Roosevelt administration from 1932 to 1944, and released a lot of these photographs and videos in modern day time of a lot of this unexplained activity, and the public is not even reacting to it. But it's fascinating to me, and I think there's certainly people in the government that know a lot more than we have been told or given a glance of. And that is something to ponder and wonder about here as you listen. Look into it yourself. Make your own opinions. It would be great to hear from some of you on your theory and why you have reacted passively. I can't really explain it. I would have thought that the first time I saw clear evidence of extraterrestrial involvement, I thought I would have a stronger reaction, but apparently I'm just like everybody else. I'm just shrugging it off. And compared to October 30th, 1938, I find that absolutely fascinating. That's Need to Know for this week. A little bit off topic in terms of what's going on in the world, but it's a show that I've been wanting to do and put out there for everybody to hear. Thank you all. I really appreciate your continuing support. It is so appreciated. Kip Keefer, Need to Know here on TKR. Don't miss the Kip and Tony show, Keefer and Kurre Sports. It'll be dropping in a day or two. We'll talk about the biggest sports topics of the day. And, of course, I always invite all of you to go to my website, kipkeefersports.com, or go to our X page, Kip Keefer, at Kip Keefer Sports. We'll have all kinds of good stuff for you. And if you're a Facebook person, our website there, it's not a website, it is our page on Facebook. Kip Keefer Sports, absolutely blowing up. We have picked up thousands of new followers. Things are going great. We've got a couple of terrestrial broadcast programs on. There's that word again, terrestrial. But we are on Jocks Radio every Saturday morning, WJOX in Birmingham, 94.5. You can listen anywhere in the world just by going to your personal device, your speaker, and saying play Jocks 94.5, and it'll pop right up. And we also have, starting in August, football season. The morning after, it'll be our 10th season, Kip Keefer and the First Lady of SEC Football, Terry Quillian, as well as Saturday mornings on ABC 3340 in Birmingham. It is the starting lineup. Kip Keefer, the legend, Tony Kurre, Case Keefer, Terry Quillian bring you a great pregame show every Saturday right before the SEC on ABC kicks off here locally on ABC 3340 Birmingham. And you can watch that show on the Starting Lineup YouTube page or the Kip Keefer Sports YouTube page. Lots of places to catch up with us, and we appreciate each and every one of you doing just that. Have a great week, everybody. Keep your eyes on the sky. You never know what might be coming down.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.